Hi, guys. Welcome to today's live mentoring session. So I wanted to talk about something that's really critical to all of us as we work through heal, as we're healing the pain that we've carried for so long, thanks to the narcissistic abuse, to the childhood emotional neglect that we've all endured. And that thing is, the topic is really having a proper understanding about what healing really is about. Because a lot of times we get into these courses, we get into this kind of coaching, this kind of work for us, hoping to get rid of the pain, right? Or to fix something about ourselves or about our world. And that is not what healing is about. Healing is about restoring to us an innocence and adjusting our point of view. Basically, we evolve from point of view A, which is maybe I'm shameful or I'm unlovable, to point of view B, where I am love, I'm worth knowing, and I am known, and it's okay to be known. That's healing. Now, in that journey is a release of the pain, the shame, the fear, the guilt, the fatigue, all of that. But healing is accomplished when we have a different point of view that's dominant about ourselves. And this takes a combination of what we're doing, basically, the clearings, the daily integrated meditations, answering those questions, and then going out and experiencing the world as we are in this new state. Because as we heal, as we grow, we need to cement that through legitimate experiences in the world. Because it's one thing to think it here, but it's another to put it out there and to witness what it's like to handle rejection from a new point of view, to handle success, acceptance, approval, connection from that point of view. To actually live it is what cements it into us. This is why trauma is so powerful, is it writes itself in our brain because it's real. It stimulated our nervous system, all our senses, and then the brain's like writing it neurologically. You create neural pathways that created this association with this event. We're doing the same process, but we're doing it with something that triggers, rather than torment, fear, and panic and anxiety and all that. It triggers peace. It triggers confidence. It triggers a sense of belonging. People who thrive in their lives have this encoding in their neurology, in their subconscious, and they're able to show up and do this because it's in them already. They were not born with it. They were programmed with it. Well, that's what we're doing. We are programming. We're reprogramming you to your confident self, because who you are is not your shame. Who you are is not your grief. It is not your guilt. It is not your fear. It's not your codependency. You're much, much bigger than that. And part of who you are is confidence, is appeal, is strength, is peace, is belonging, is success. These are all attributes of your experience. Okay? But notice I'm not giving you a full-on definition about who you are. And there's a good reason for that, because there's no possible way I can know who you are entirely. I can only know you from my own experience. And it's very important that you register that. You can only know you through the things you experience, not the things you just assume about yourself. Okay? So if you want to do a thing, like if you want to build a thriving business, or you want to go on that particular trip, or you want to ask that particular person out, and you've not succeeded in doing those things before, you know yourself in a state of failure. Now you get to explore the world as a state of exploration, and eventually you will know yourself in a state of success. So you get to be all three things. And this is why I say it's important for us not to assume we know ourselves entirely, because when we engage experiences, we engage reality from different points of view, we get different experiences, we get different results. Thus, we get to know ourselves from a different vantage point. And that's what healing is all about. You're getting to learn who you are without that shame, without that guilt, without that fear, that fatigue. And that allows you to expand. This is what rewrites the brain neurology. This is what releases the trauma, as it captures us in all those things. Now, I'm going to sneeze here, so I'm going to mute, okay? We're going to see. I was just on it. Okay, we're back. So yeah, springtime, got a little sneezing on. So as you work through your healing, I want you to pay attention to who you discover yourself to be. What an amazing adventure this can be for you. It's been one for me. It's been one for my clients. One of the things that I've realized in my own journey, and I think you're going to realize pretty quick here, is that you are not shame. You never were. You are something else entirely, which I'm finding personally. So I'm enthusiasm. I'm curiosity. I'm edgy. I'm success. I'm even love. So I get to be more. And you'll notice that I kind of phrase this in the terms of what I'm discovering right now. I've been at this for 10 years professionally and for almost 12 years personally. And I phrase it that way because I'm not a place where I don't believe we ever arrive. There's no place where I get off the boat and I'm me and everything's great and I can just not. I do believe we get off. I do believe that healing is a chapter in our lives. It's not, this thing we're going to have to ultra focus on for the rest of our existence. We're just going to have to invest a certain amount of time in it up front so we can move forward. But I'm not one that believes that there's an end point. Because if there is, then I'm going to fixate on that end point. I'm going to miss out on life. Life's bigger than the end goal. And there's that cliche, life is, it's about the journey, not the destination kind of thing. What if it's neither? What if it's just about the experience we're having right now and what that brings to us? What if we expanded into that mindset and said, hey, this is where I'm at now. I like, what am I learning? What am I gaining here? What am I experiencing here? And we allow ourselves to consume what is present for us, allow it to teach us, allow us to discover more about ourselves through it. And I've taken that approach, and what it's done for me is it's given me a lot more peace of mind. I'm not out here trying to figure something out. I'm not trying to control the future. I'm actually more responsive to the present, which gives me opportunities to change tomorrow from today's vantage point. It also helps me refine my goals because I quickly learn what I really want and what I don't want when I'm present. And that's a really empowering place for us to go as we heal, because once we let go of who we are, as we heal who we think we are, we get to discover more about who we are, but we also get to choose who we'll be. That's a very empowering place to go because we are now able to define our future in a way that promotes our happiness based on what we know right now. And then if we do that on a conscious present level, we're going to be refining our step every single day. There's been a lot of goals I've, chosen on day 1, and then I've changed on day 7 because I got more awareness about what's going on. But there's also goals that I was like, oh, I really want this. Now I have even clearer vision for it, and I'm able to accomplish those things. Further, this got me out of being productive, and it got me being into effective. As codependents, we tend to really focus on productivity, right? Being efficient, not being wasteful, and not being imperfect, because productivity is like one of those perfectionist things, right? We don't give ourselves a lot of chance to play, to relax, and to indulge a bit. And when I started playing in the present moment, I started making that my only focus. I got to play a lot more because it's like, oh, I just finished writing up this document, or I just finished this client with a session, or I just finished volleyball with my daughter or track with my son. What do I want to do now? Oh, I want to play, or I want to go to a movie, or I want to go on a date, or I want to go to dinner, or I want to do some Minecraft. That's what I do. See? So that's where I come from with it. Hey, is this Lori?
Yes, it is.
Hi, Lori.
I just got through the door, so.
So welcome. How are you doing? Fair? Yeah. Okay.
Not
Fair's
the
good.
best, but fair is better than not fair.
Right. Right. Yeah. I'm just sitting here doing a little expose on productivity and how it kind of gets in our way in life, especially with codependency. We tend to be perfectionists, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And part of that perfectionistic mindset is always being productive. So you do one thing, now I got to do the next thing.
Right.
And so it's kind of, I was talking about that, and I was talking about how I approach it, because I approach it from an angle of the present moment. So as you're doing like the clearings, you're doing the daily integrative meditations, they're pulling you into a present moment with yourself, because you're being asked to access what you feel, right? Listen to what's coming up in your body, and then to follow the guidance in the meditation. And this gets you present. And I've learned in my own recovery from codependency that when we relax into the present moment, we can have a lot more fun. We can play more. And that can get us out of the addiction to productivity. How happy has productivity made your life?
Not very.
Not very, right? What have you gotten instead?
Well, frustration.
Yeah. Stress, pressure, maybe some anxiety.
Right.
Yeah.
Do it right.
Right. And none of that's really fun, is it?
No.
No. So this approach is about, hey, I like for instance, my allegory, my example was I'm done with like volleyball with my daughter, or track with my son, or just finished up another article for a website or something. Now I check in with myself at that point, because productivity would say, okay, Marshall, you got your to-do list, check those off, get to the next item. But my approach in being present says, okay, we got that done. Now I check in with myself. What do I feel like doing right now? Maybe I want to go out to dinner or go to a movie or play I'm a big fan of Minecraft, which is a computer game. Maybe do a little of that. Maybe take a nap, maybe go for a walk. And what I'll do is I'll do what I feel in that moment. And that allows me to have happiness and play in my life, rather than being consumed in productivity, which is where we often, that's where our misery is in productivity, is codependence. So what do you think about that?
I think that's very, very true. The programming that gets in the way in my thoughts is that, you have to do and do and do and do and do. And the idea of stopping is like very foreign.
Right.
Like even when I'm sick, paralyzed in bed, all I could think about was, I need to be up doing dishes. I need to be up dusting. Oh, look, this needs to be, always feeling guilty.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you're not being enough, because you're not being productive. My word.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's kind of what we really get into when we start addressing with like week 1 with being. We get a chance to just exist. And we can let go of our guilt. We can let go of our shame for not doing something. And then later weeks, you're going to be doing some clearings on getting out of productivity, so that you can relax. You can be in your bed just as you are, even if you're, in pain, or that like the SLE is kicked in or something. You don't have to have the burden of shame or guilt too. In fact, you can have more of a peace of mind, like, I'm okay. I'm okay not being productive. I'm okay that nothing is happening. Even if you could do something, you also get the freedom to choose not to do the thing. And that's really empowering when we don't have to, when we're no longer controlled by that shame or that fear anymore. Instead, we get to show up and say, well, I want this or I don't. So that is something you can look forward to as you continue to work through the course. How has it been so far for you?
Well, honestly, I've been very, very sporadic, because there's been just stuff happening.
Right.
As you know, and I almost wrote this in the thing that it was like, I feel like I need to go back to square one. I need to start all over. I screwed it up. So now I need to go back and, you know.
Yeah. What you can do, what I would do, because you didn't screw anything up. This is kind of the cool thing about this course about heal is it's very flexible because the concepts are not necessarily built on top of each other. They're not dependent on each other. You can take, let's say, because you're in week 2, almost to start week 3 right now. Let's say tomorrow you get like week 3 or something. Well, you can do week 1 or you can do week 3. It doesn't matter. But the one thing I would want you to do is if you choose like week 1, just do week 1 for 7 days. Don't bounce between them because that won't get you what you're looking for.
That makes total sense.
That makes sense? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
and it does relieve the pressure of the because I literally am getting sometimes your stuff comes in on my email 2 and 3 days later. It's like, oh man.
Yeah, and you just manage it because the emails go out once a day, but they're there just to educate you. They're kind of a reminder, but they're not there to pressure you. It's like, I just need to do this, and here's some information about the topic we're releasing on. So, now, last time we talked, I did some updates to the daily discovery practice, the DDP, and then sent you that. Really good. That worked? Great. I was very, very curious about that. Excellent. Good. Because the rest of them have been adjusted to that format. So you can expect that as that's the way things will be from here forward with it. So
that's great. Well, I like the flexibility of it. The trouble is my brain doesn't like to be flexible. It thinks like do A, B, C, D to, it's like there's a finish line thing. And I think this is almost like a circular thing going on.
You nailed it. It is circular because healing is a process of evolution. We're evolving our identity from one point of view to another. And that requires repetition. And so it's like, when you get to week 12 and there'll be some bonus weeks that come after that, you can restart the course and do it again, and you'll get even deeper insight and deeper shift for you because the tools are designed to help nurture your new identity into the world and help put to rest the old one. And that takes repetition because the brain's a machine that learns by repetition. It would be nice if it were different, but it isn't. So we'll have to work with it until it is not that way. But yeah, it's very flexible for you that way. And you're going to find that some subjects don't really click the first time through, but really do the second time. And you're going to find your favorites too. I have my own favorites in it. And it's like, I'm going to go do this now. Especially once you've done it through all 12 weeks once through, you can get really flexible with it. So it makes it really useful.
Oh, that's good. I that just, like I said, that just lifts the pressure off of me because I get into a panic when I feel like I'm getting behind. That's kind of a throwback of going school to school and losing important information.
Yeah.
Especially in mathematics.
Right. Oh, man.
Once it was lost, I didn't regain it until going to night school in my last year of high school. I had to go back. I literally had to go back and start over and come back forward. Yeah.
If you don't use it, you lose it kind of thing. And this doesn't work that way. We're dealing with a nurturing process, and that requires repetition. So having, like, if you wanted to start over again, start over. You already have the emails, you already have the information, you just run through it.
Right.
So that's
so
not
I don't have to be a certain place at a certain time.
No. There is no finish line.
That's wonderful.
The goal is that you transform, you grow. And some of those will be really small things and some of them will be really big things, and all of them matter. So there isn't an expectation like you're going to get here, check mark, check mark. The course is linear in the way it's set up, but there's no really other way to do it that would be useful. I can give you everything at once and nobody will do anything because it's overwhelming. I give you a little bit at a time and then people are like, oh, okay. But the order in which it's presented isn't deliberate that way. It's presented in a way that I have found works for most people and gets them comfortable with these processes. But it's not necessarily have to be done in that order. So, yeah.
Right.
And one thing I have a couple of other clients doing is like, because there's the 5 clearings. You've got the shame, guilt, fear, fatigue, and then the generalized clearing. And they, sometimes when they're really feeling guilty, they'll just run the clearing on whatever it is they're feeling guilty about. Or if they're feeling really fatigued, they'll just run it against that. So it's not even in response to the topic of the week. It's just in response to what's going on in their life at that time. So
right. See, that makes so much sense.
And it's so useful. That's the thing is, it's like, oh yeah, I know what to do with this feeling now. I've got this tool that can help me get through it and grow. So that's why I set it up that way. My original setup of the program had very specific shame clearings for every week. And I was like, something bothered me about it. Something just was off. And so I scrapped that and I went back and created these ones. And that has just hit the spot. People have been really, really happy with that. So yeah, intuition matters that way.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, we're kicking butt. So yeah, remember in your healing that it's an evolution. It's not an event. You're learning about yourself.
Right.
So like one thing that was pretty profound for me several years ago, my own journey, was this moment where I realized I didn't have to feel shame anymore. I wasn't even shameful. It was just, oh, I've been telling myself I have to. I remember it because I was at Walmart buying some food for my kids, and this thought comes in my mind. It's like, we should buy this kind of food, or you're being a terrible parent. And I'm like, why do I think I have to feel shame? It just caught me that way. And I'm like, oh, I don't have to. I can buy them the marshmallow things and they'll be just fine. And so I did. But yeah, that's the evolution. That's what real healing is about. Now, obviously in tandem with alleviating pain. So that.
Well, it kind of seems stuck in that particular one, but
stuck in pain.
I haven't quite got to the fatigue one, but I feel like that's an important one. But a lot of stuff has come up. And
yeah, we take our time with it. Usually, it's kind of like, I bet you've experienced this. So it's when you stuff a garbage can full of stuff and then you smash the top down on it, and it's just fine if you don't do anything to it. But then when you open it up, it all falls out, just goes everywhere. Healing is initially a lot like that, where we've pushed all this stuff into this place in us, and then we come in here and we start opening that up, and a lot of stuff just goes bleh. So it feels really messy and really disorganized for a little while. And we just pick off whatever we encounter. The one mistake a lot of people make is they obsess about the whole mess, and then they get overwhelmed and they stop. One thing I did when that happened was I just picked up what was in front of me, got rid of that. Then the next thing, got rid of that. Then I took a break, because you got to have a little piece of mind, a little break in there. And then picked up another piece and did that, and another piece. And eventually I found myself quickly narrowing in on what really needed to be fixed, which wasn't the trash. It was the trash can. I needed a bigger can. I needed a better way to manage my emotions, basically. I needed to understand why I kept putting shame in me, or fear, or fatigue, or guilt. And then when I eliminated that, then there was nothing left to clean. And so that's why I focus on those 4 things, because they're the things that we're constantly wrestling with, but never really addressing. And so knocking those out first and foremost, we're just getting rid of the need to have a trash can, because there's not going to be any trash left over. It's more like, oh, I'll let this go. I let the shame go because it isn't me. Because we don't have to believe it anymore. If that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
What do you think about all that?
Well, I think I agree that it's stuff gets just pushed in and pushed in and pushed in and pushed down, and pretending it's not there. The crises that are going on, you got to deal with, so you can't let them come up. And then, holy cow, when they do, it's like, I didn't know there was so much in there hiding.
Right. Yeah,
it's kind of like yeast. It's in there just kind of rising.
And then voila. Oh, I've got a lot to do. Yep.
Yep.
So now we're just alleviating that. And it'll take the time it takes. The fact you're doing it is critical, because healing starts the moment you start stepping out. And there's this thing in our brain that's happening that kind of gets in our way. And I call it the 51% mark. So anything under 51% in the brain is going to be a struggle. It's like, I've got to keep trying. I've got to keep pushing. I got to keep going. But once we get to that 51%, it's like we're on the downside of the mountain. We got gravity at our back, so it's helping us move down the mountain fast. So right now you're climbing that mountain, so you're kind of against the gravity. You're against the normal programming of your brain. So it feels like resistance. So it shows up like frustration. But once you've done it enough, you'll get to that 51%, and then it feels a lot easier, a lot simpler for you. And that's where it gets easier and easier and easier and automatic. And that's basically what's happening. So you got to just keep with it, because the big ahas, the big shifts will come. You'll know you're getting closer to that peak. And then one day it's going to be like, man, that was easier than it's been in the past. Oh, look, another easier one. Oh, that one was really difficult, but this one was easier. And like, just the ease starts becoming more prominent than the difficulty. So that's kind of the magic there.
That's cool.
Yeah. So what has come up for you over the last, we talked last week. So the last week, what's been a big challenge for you that you faced?
Well, some of it's minor and some of it's major, but I missed getting the card out for my daughter's birthday, and then I know that doesn't sound like a big deal, but it is a big deal for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I have 2 new great grandbabies coming, and you know, I'm very overwhelmed with the idea that I need to do something to prove my value in their lives. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It does.
But I look at it and I go, well, they've got this and they've got that, and they're getting this from my ex-husband, and you know, they're all this stuff, and I can't. What can I do? Send a card,
right?
You know, and I didn't even get that out. So then I was, you know, just pretty upset about that. And then there was a court thing that I wasn't directly involved in, but the energy was just, it was horrible.
Right. With the birthday cards and with the grandbabies, what's the feeling there for you? What's the dominant emotion that comes up for you in that?
Part of it is sadness, because I'm not really a part of their lives. I am and I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
And just that I should have done something. I mean, my brain plans to do stuff, and then there are other things that happen, or I get sick, and then it doesn't happen. And, I mean,
Right.
even with my foster mom, I still have her Mother's Day card from last year.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, she's not here anymore, but it's like, why can't I get it together? I used to have this together. I used
Right.
to have cards out. I used to celebrate stuff,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think, I guess, shame, it really still keeps swirling around.
Right. So there's an opportunity for you to use that shame clearing on this, and do it. Do it several times. Once a day. Don't do more than once a day, but use it several times on this, and let's see what starts to change for you. Because a lot of times, especially when we're dealing with things that we used to do well and that we're now not doing so well, that's also scary because we kind of feel like we've lost control.
Yep.
And we want to honor that, because with that comes grief, sadness, because something, life has changed. Our bodies are changed, our minds have changed, and that alone can be really, really difficult to accept. And so honoring your sadness matters because it's real. The sadness that you can't contribute the way you want to. And then you've got these factors involved that are interfering, that you don't have a whole lot of power over. Honoring that is okay because it's a legitimate thing. It's real. And that can actually help your brain be a little more focused. Because rather than dosing yourself in shame, you're dosing yourself with compassion. And I've seen this with clients and with myself. We start to do the thing we wanted to do initially. We may not get it out the same way we used to, but we get it done because it still matters. It still matters to us that it gets out. It matters to us that they know that they matter to us. We want them to know that, hey, you matter to me. I love you. I care about you. And even if it's 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months late, it still gets there. And that's life. And real love is persistent, in my opinion. And that's a form of persistence. And also, let's see if I'm on target here, but it sounds like you would like to be a little more involved in your grandbabies' lives.
Yes.
Okay. So that might be something to look at. Is the I'm assuming the relationship with your kiddos are solid, right? You don't have a
well, I have 4 boys and a girl, but my daughter basically, as an adult, got put in between my ex and I.
Oh.
And pretty much it was like, you choose my side or I'll throw you away too. And it took me a while to catch on what was happening, but anyway, so she had to stay really angry with me for a long time.
Right.
In order to keep her relationship with her dad.
So the ex tried to alienate you.
Oh, hugely.
Okay.
She had to be the go-between for
Right.
all communication. It was just ridiculously stupid. And she feels like I have lied to her. And in truth, I have lied to her. Well, not lied to her. I've omitted information. Let me put it that way.
Right.
But like when her dad walked out, I begged him. I said, please wait till after her baby comes, because she was in a crisis pregnancy.
Oh,
and she had been the one before.
Right.
He went behind my back and told her. So she thought I was lying to her all this time. And,
she just doesn't, she doesn't understand your reasoning, it sounds like.
No. And I don't know that she ever will.
Right.
I just, there's just always that thing there, and I'm very, very sensitive to it, of course.
Sure. Yeah.
And it is just, and we've had a really strained relationship. From the time she turned 16, it was like she went insane for a few years. Then she came back to center, and apologized and said she didn't know why she'd gone so crazy, and pretty much settled down. And then the divorce happened, and then, she could be curt on the phone, but the mother-daughter thing wasn't there at all.
Gotcha. Yeah, that is rough. And so you kind of have an acquaintance relationship with your daughters. It sounds like it's.
Yep, and I have an acquaintance relationship with two of my boys too.
Gotcha. Is that a result of the divorce?
Well, I think it's a result of their own busyness and their own lives, and this, that kind of thing. And one son is kind of like his dad in the thought that I am too emotional, because I did things like cry when they all went off to the military, and
but that's so normal. That's one thing.
Yeah, it is, but I was told it wasn't.
Right.
And they were told it wasn't.
Yeah, that's one of those. Sounds like your ex might have been a narcissist.
I didn't realize that until later on. I never saw it that way, because I was codependent.
Yeah. It was normal. This was what people do. Now, yeah, it's one of those signals I'm personally very sensitive to as well, is this idea that you're sensitive. You're too sensitive. You're too emotional about that. You take it too intensely. No. Being emotional, having emotion is normal. Well, if you don't have emotion, there's something wrong. There's like, it is that the healthy element in life is having emotions. I feel something about this event. I feel something about you. You're my son. You're going away to the military. Of course I'm going to cry. I care about you. That puts you in dangerous situations. You're moving on in your life. I'm proud of you. I mean, there's all sorts of reasons to have emotions about that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's very, very normal to have emotion.
Too. But what's kind of interesting is I literally, at one point when I was a child, shut down those emotions because I was told, like I went on a visitation to a former foster family, and because I cried when I left, I was never allowed to go see them again.
Right.
Because I showed emotion.
Yep.
When I left literally the most important foster family mother that I had, I was told that she could not see me cry. And I was only 8 years old.
Yeah, see, that's just...
And I shut it off.
Oh, yeah.
And for years, I could smile. People would not know the stuff that was going on. They couldn't tell.
No,
but
you were just fine. Huh? You were always just fine, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, and always smiling.
Just fine. Always smile, yeah. There's nothing wrong.
Yeah. Exactly. But when, for some reason, whatever happened that rattled my brain, my emotions were, I can't not show them. They show.
Yeah.
And I can't mask them.
Yeah.
And so that was a huge change for me. I hid out in church in the nursery because I was so mad because I couldn't stop the emotion from showing.
Right. It was very exposing.
No longer control it. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, not that I went, not that I was just like sobbing crazy like that. Mm-hmm. I mean, I literally couldn't put that mask on anymore.
Right.
Like my brain just lost its ability to do that.
It got tired of it.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, that happened to me too. Now, because growing up, I was a pretty opinionated kid. I still am an opinionated person, but I'd show it. And then after my mother died, when my stepmother came into the picture, things changed radically, and I could not show emotion. If I showed emotion, I never got physically hit. I got emotionally punished. I was always accused of trying to destroy the marriage. Always repeatedly accused of that. And called very selfish for having feelings. Unless conveniently, those feelings happened to be in response to what they wanted. See, if I showed sadness about their sadness, that's fine. Or happiness about their happiness, that's fine. Outside of that, nope. I was at the age of 13. So my mom died she died on April 9th, 1989. So that was 8 days before my 11th birthday. So we come around a year. I'm 12. My dad is just remarried. So he married 11 months after my mother died. My stepmother told me to my face to get over my mother's death because I was understandably struggling.
Oh my word.
So I can totally relate to this idea of not showing emotion because I had to stop showing emotion about it. And, or there was just these stuff like that. So it's indicative of narcissists because they can't handle other people's emotions for a couple of reasons. One, they lack empathy. They lack the ability to empathize properly with other people. Two, it takes away from their supply. They're no longer the focus, the center of attention. So if I'm having an emotion, somehow that takes away from them. And she would get us in line in very weird ways. Like if I mentioned my mother's name was Barbara. If I mentioned Barbara, my stepmother would have a seizure, sometimes on the spot, full out seizure. And then my father would come to us a couple of days later and tell us, every time you mention Barbara, she gets sick, so that has to stop happening.
Oh, wow.
It was, they do these things, it's crazy making and how that happens. But yeah, we were taught to shut it off. And then a couple years ago, when my own healing, about 6 years ago, I just my body can't do it. It physically hurts to shut down the emotions. So I'm just like, well, you guys get to live with it. Here you go. And my parents, that's when I had to go no contact with them because they flipped out. They're like, you're just so emotional. I'm like, yep, and you get to live with it. And so, yeah, there's a point where we can't turn it off because it hurts. It's not who we are. We deserve to have our emotions. We deserve to be able to share them and to have them respected. It's like, oh, your feelings matter to me. You're in a healthy relationship when the other person cares about how you feel rather than cares that, rather than requests or demands that you don't feel anything. They're fine with what you feel. They're not scared by your emotions. They actually are grateful that you share them because they feel closer to you. They understand you. They get to know you better. That's a form of intimacy, is being able to share our emotions in ways that are safe with people who are safe. And so as you heal, you're going to start seeing more and more how your emotions actually do matter and that they're valuable. So, yeah. How are you feeling?
Strangely kind of calm right now.
Good. Calmness is good. That I think is going to become more and more your normal as you continue to work through things. That's you soon in the next couple of days, you're going to get more access to the Calm course, which is going to help you regulate emotions, and then it's going to help you normalize calmness. We're not used to feeling calm.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
We're used to being all tense and anxious. Yeah, when we can make calm safe and normal, we actually helps our brain re-engage our creativity. The prefrontal cortex of our brain actually gets more blood flow and more electrical activity, and that's where our spontaneous creativity, playfulness, effective problem solving, all that starts to show up. And that's where we feel alive again, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, you'll be getting access to that later this week because I'll be sending out some emails so you guys get connected with that.
Wonderful.
Well, yeah, enjoy that calmness. Allow yourself to have it because one, you get to share your experience and you get validation for it because you're not crazy. You're not crazy for having feelings when you're 8 years old. You're also not crazy for shutting them off because that's how you survived. It's part of your brilliance. Our brains are so brilliant. It's like, I know what to do to survive this, and it did it. And now we're going to use that same brilliance to help you thrive. So,
Wow.
yeah. So, yeah, you've actually not done anything wrong. There's nothing that's flawed here that has to be fixed. It's just, oh, I know what to do if I'm with a narcissistic or abusive person. I've got that skill mastered. We call that codependency. Now I'm beginning to master the skill of thriving, which is having open, loving relationship with life and others on my terms.
Mm-hmm.
So both of these, one kept you alive, and the other one's going to help you thrive. So that's how I look at it. I'm not a big, I'm a very anti-disease person. Like a lot of people talk about codependency as being a disease. Like you got to go to Coda and you got to do the 12 steps. And, you're always going to live with this thing. I'm, to be blunt and a little crass, it's total bullshit. You can thrive beyond it. And I know because I do, and hundreds of my clients do. And it's a process of shifting that identity out of I'm codependent to I thrive. I'm love. And then we behave and we act in ways that make it work for us. I mean, it's an organic thing. We don't have to fight so hard, especially as you get that shame out of the way, especially around your love. So you get into weeks 5, 6, and 7 in Heal. It's all going to just go away. It's like, oh, I can be loved. I am lovable. And people want my love. People like my love. People enjoy my love. People enjoy loving me. Think about that. People enjoy loving me. They enjoy giving me their love. It brings them joy to love me. I'm a joy to love. So that's some pretty big shifts right there. I'm going to write that one down. I like that phrase. I'm a joy to love. Because I can just create another meditation on that. So now I'll probably go on the nurture course. But yeah. So I'm happy you're taking the course at your pace. So you don't have to pressure yourself anymore. I'm glad you're asking about that, and I'm really glad you're showing up here, and you're taking the steps that matter, because it doesn't have to be a whole lot of them. It just needs to be steps. One step matters because then you're just one step closer, another one, and another one. You're doing it at your pace, so that really matters. Okay. So is there any questions or anything you want to shoot at the time we've got left?
Trying to think if I have any questions. I think in the future, when thoughts come up, I might write some, questions that I might have down, and then that way I'll have them on hand. Right now, retrieving much of anything, just talking about it, it's like all of a sudden my whole body kind of just went.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's good. Your body's relaxing and it's getting what it needs. And that's why I provide this. That's why live mentoring is part of the program, because There's a lot of programs out there that are solo. It's like, well, just do these things. But without this, the magic, this is part of the magic. It's part of the equation. So, yeah, good. I'm glad your body's getting a benefit because it needs that. It deserves that. You deserve to have a relaxed, calm body.
Yeah. The only time that usually happens is if I'm unconscious.
Right? I hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to get some tools in Calm that'll actually help you do it deliberately because the body has a built-in calming mechanism. Kind of like, you know how we have fight and flight responses, right? Well, the body's got a built-in calming response. And I teach you how to use that in Calm because it's a simple touching technique of the palm and the underside of the forearm. And even yawning. We know neuroscientists have found that yawning switches the body into relaxation.
Wow.
So that's kind of whack. But I was like, oh, it's so simple. It's right up front. So let's see.
Yeah, when I hear you yawn on the it's like, ooh.
Yep, it brings it in because even I'm doing it while I'm creating. I'm like, gotta yawn. And that just helps us relax a little deeper. And that's why that sequence is in there. That's why we do those 5 yawns. It's because it's getting you out of resistance and helping your mind open up to influence. And then it puts you into a semi-hypnotic state. And then you just do the journey. And you're done.
Wow.
Good idea about writing down those questions. Definitely do. Also, feel free to post them in group. Okay. So you happen to have a question and you're online, just plop it in there and I'll answer it. Yeah, good.
Well, I'm feeling much more comfortable with the process now than I don't feel nearly as panicky.
Good.
About like I said, I'm just so much. It's a type A personality. You outline it. It's A, B, C, and 1, 2, 3, and
yep.
and like I said, I suddenly realized this is a circle. Yep. I may be moving up in the circle at a different level, but I'm still circling here.
Yep. Yep. It's a spiral, and it just goes up over and over and over.
Yep.
Good. Yeah, because it's not a linear system that way, and I'm glad you see that. And that helps me because I'll add some information to some of the material to bring that to the forefront too, because I know other people struggle with that. So
there's got to be more of me out there like that.
Most of us. I've noticed that most of us codependents are really similar with our personality type and with love languages, things like that, where we have a lot of similarities. So
probably have a lot of OCD people too.
Yeah, OCD is a high state of anxiety. So absolutely. I was OCD pretty severely after Mom died because my stepmother's a perfectionist. She would get very angry when we didn't do it the right way in the right order.
Oh, yeah.
Even though we got the same result, I had to do the same right order over and over.
And exactly. Yeah.
So I adopted that to survive, and then I got out of it. I deliberately would leave things messy. And actively, my process was, I'm going to leave the dishes for 2 days and see what happens. So on day 3, I'm like, nothing happened.
Oh, my gosh.
Right? I won't get that. But nothing.
I won't even go in the kitchen if my dishes are sitting out there like that.
Oh, I would go in there and I'd look at them and I'd realize there's one day it just clicked in my brain like, it doesn't change anything. Doing the dishes changed nothing. Not doing the dishes changed nothing. The only thing is I'd run out of spoons. So if I'm tired of not having spoons, I need to do the dishes. But none of the fear my brain was giving me, like being rejected, being attacked, being verbally assaulted, withdrawal of love and affection, none of that happened. Now, my brain also realized something really important. It realized that if I did this with my stepmother, that would happen, but that's because that's who she chooses to be. That's not because that's how the dishes have to be done.
Right.
The dishes were never the issue. She always was the issue. And so when my brain made that connection, I realized I could do the dishes on my terms. And it also became a great filter for people I dated and had relationships with, because if they're going to be a perfectionist, I'm not going to be in a relationship. Like,
Yeah.
you will
I
not
imagine
do
I'm
that.
a hard person to be around at times because of, I mean, I can't cook unless the counters are clean. They have to be clean. I mean,
Right.
it's just so driven. And it just dawned on me that I like punish myself not allowing myself to cook, but
because of
counters not
counters.
being cleaned.
Right. And so what you do is you do little doses of disorder. It's like, I'm going to make, and we do this small because OCD, again, is an anxiety disorder. So we do it small, like, okay, the counters are dirty, so I'll make a piece of toast and leave them dirty and see what happens. Because what you're doing is you're actually proving to your brain that there isn't a threat.
Yeah.
And then you can, I mean, it makes sense to have clean counters when you're cooking because you want to avoid disease, right?
Right.
That's rational, and that's a good reason to clean. But that becomes your motivator, not the necessity of perfection.
Mm-hmm.
So that there's a switch there. So a lot of times our behavior isn't the issue, it's the motivator that is. So your desire can switch there, and that'll bring a lot more peace, I imagine, because your brain won't be constantly obsessing about it.
Mm-hmm.
And but you do it in small doses, and eventually your brain will give up because it'll go, oh, I am safe. I've been safe 700 times. Cool. But it's a gentle process because the OCD will win if you push it. I learned that the hard way.
So actually, the more I give in to that, the more it'll demand of me.
Yeah, the more you enable the OCD, the more it'll take. But the less you enable it by just doing small things, like, it's just a piece of toast and nothing happened, it gets lesser and less. We're just working with the way the brain works at this point. So,
mm-hmm.
And anxiety, it makes sense to you. It fits in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Yeah, there's one thing I want to tell you so you understand what's going on, why it works this way. Is the brain has one job, and that job is to keep you alive. And it does that in two ways. It runs from danger, and it promotes or runs towards pleasure, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if the brain has this program in it that says, hey, those counters being dirty is a threat, it's going to make you obsess about it so you can eliminate the threat, right? Now, in reality, the dirty counters aren't a threat. They're not going to come out and kill us. They're not going to harm us in any way. So what we have to do is help the brain realize that the counters are not a threat. But it has to be done through experience, because if we argue with the brain, it kicks in that fear and says, no, it's a threat. And it just gets louder and louder and louder. And it'll always win. That's why it always wins, is because it's doing its job. It's keeping you alive against the killer counters. And now, with using that approach of immersion into the lack of a threatening counter, the brain can't argue against it. It's like, yeah, it's never hurt me. It's done. And it takes the time it takes. Sometimes it will go quickly, sometimes it won't. It doesn't matter. Your job is to do little bits. It's like, a piece of toast, a bowl of cereal, maybe some chicken, maybe even clean part of the counter, to cook with and leave part of it dirty. Just little things like that start to normalize the experience of the counter situation, and you're like, oh, I'm alive. Nobody died. And that's a joke I like to use with clients is, did you die? But did you die? Obviously you haven't, Lori, unless we're having a supernatural experience right now. So
okay, that I never even really thought about how, I mean, I know that I have this urge and the kind of that panicky thing and that, but I never really thought about what I was feeling at that moment and thinking about it.
right.
Because all I was doing was running away from what I was feeling.
Yeah. Yep. And that's okay. That also tells you that your instinct with danger is to run. And in I think it's week 3, week 4, you're going to explore a little bit about that instinct and how to regulate it, because it's really important to know that you're a runner. I'm a runner, and I'm a freezer. I will freeze.
Yeah.
I'm not. There are times when I fight, but I really have to be pushed, and usually I don't like it. I don't want to fight. I can, but I don't want to. But yeah.
Yeah, I won't fight. You can attack me, and I would never do. I wouldn't even defend myself. I mean, I'd maybe put my hands up, but
right.
But I wouldn't hit back. Let me put it that way.
Right.
That wasn't in my nature.
Right. And so knowing that you're a runner and then a freezer helps us understand your reaction to things. And then as you work through calm, that will help you regulate that so that you can get into a proactive state rather than being stuck in the freeze or the run. So, because those are things that aren't wrong with us. They're just what we are. They're not bad. It's just what we do. Kind of like our personality. It's just part of it. It's something we were literally born with that state as a predisposition. So, not bad.
Is it fair to assume that the trip out to Oregon and being around all that stuff like stirred up things? Because it's like
it totally
I mean, it's like a rug that had a whole bunch of stuff in it and somebody shook it and now that stuff is flying everywhere. And I didn't even know it was hidden in my rug, so to speak.
Yeah. Oh, it's very, very normal. And there's important components as to why. The brain is a pattern machine. So when there are things going on that threaten us, the brain encodes that pattern. That pattern can show up as a smell, an image, like an object, like, oh, I see this car, brings back these memories, or I see this picture, this house, for instance, or a town, or a word. But the brain associates those qualities, those elements with a threat. And so that becomes deeply written into the brain. It's like, be aware of these things. And just like how most people get really scared of snakes, that there's a reason. It's been encoded into us. It's in our DNA. Snakes are dangerous. Same with falling. Don't go over the edge and die. We have typically a natural fear of fire for the same reason. This, it's encoded in us. And so you go back to a place where you've experienced very intense things, it's gonna bring stuff out of the carpet. It's gonna shake that carpet quite a bit. And very natural, because your brain is re-engaging the threat. It's like, we're back in a place that's been threatening. What's going on? And the way the brain tries to protect us is to show us images of the threat so that we'll So the brain can literally, think about this for a moment, it's kind of funny, literally trigger itself into fear so it could run, freeze, or fight.
Mm-hmm.
So it's how it's protecting itself. So it's very normal, very expected.
Okay.
Like my mom died in Flagstaff, Arizona. So when I go back to Flagstaff every once in a while, I feel like I'm 10 because that's my major association with the town.
Yeah.
And so it's just,
on top of being there, I had no control over being able to leave.
oh yeah.
I couldn't, I had no car. I had to rely on anybody for transportation to get anywhere. So
Right.
it wasn't like I could just leave.
Yeah.
When I would be feeling stuff.
Well, and that's even indicative of the same situation you were in originally.
Yeah.
You couldn't leave then.
Nope.
And so that no wonder it brings stuff up. It's really close to the original situation.
Yeah.
So that's the things that you're experiencing, the stuff that comes up is technically called an emotional flashback. And that term is defined by or coined by a man named Pete Walker. He's a psychologist that specializes in what's called complex PTSD. And he's got a book on it called Complex PTSD. But he coins that idea of emotional flashback. This is stuff that our body starts to experience in relationship to something that's happened in the past that could be triggered by a smell or an object.
I used to not be able to handle gasoline smell. I mean, it just, I would start to almost vomit because it was just, but one of the first times I was really molested was in a garage.
Oh, yep.
And he was a mechanic in garage. And so that's a trigger point. It was kind of cool that Oregon didn't have us pumping our own gas because I was able to not have to deal with that for a long time.
Right. No, that
and then
definitely.
My ex-husband, being aware of that, he always did mostly pump the gas. But even, if there was a gas can around or whatever, it would just bring that nausea, vomiting thing on.
Yep. And the reason you feel nausea and vomiting is because that's what you felt during the original experience.
Yeah.
It's actually, when I do trauma work with clients, we look for those body symptoms because to heal trauma, we don't need to address the memory. We need to address the symptoms, the body symptoms specifically, because trauma is a body experience. It's not here in our mind so much, it's more in our nervous system in the body. So we release the trauma through the body, and those symptoms are the gateway. So they're actually really useful that way. I totally get that. I used to really hate spaghetti because that's all Dad ever made while Mom was sick. So I associated that with that. So yeah, that's very, very normal. You're not crazy. You're actually pretty phenomenal because your brain's doing a fantastic job of trying to protect you. So it's pretty cool.
Never thought of it that way. That's kind of neat.
Yeah, because it's literally what it's doing. It just wants to keep you alive. It loves you. It wants you alive. It's just doing the best it can with what it's got. And now we're giving it more tools, so it doesn't have to do that so much.
That's cool.
It is. It really is.
I never realized how, I know the brain is important, but how it has protected through the,
Yeah. Yep. It's on your side, even though it doesn't feel like it sometimes. It really is. It's just trying to keep us alive so that eventually we can thrive. The brain is designed to thrive, and but now you're at a point where you're beginning to go into that space and grow. So it's succeeding. It's got you here. And that's pretty phenomenal. So.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. So we'll be doing this again next Tuesday. We also have it on Sundays, 2 to 4.
That's what I couldn't. You know what, Marshall? I couldn't remember. I kept thinking, was it on Sunday? Was it the same time? You know, I was like,
Yeah, Sundays are different time, 2 to 4, and Tuesdays 4 to 6. And the emails, the system sends them out. So whenever you get them, you get them. But yeah, write that down on your calendar. So you.
Yes, I'm gonna make sure that's in a prominent place so that I'm trying to get organized to where I can remember what I'm trying to remember.
Right.
But like I said, there was a lot of chaos going on. So.
Yep. One day at a time, one step at a time.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome, Lori. Glad you're having fun. You're doing good. And let's keep going. We'll talk soon.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. So that concludes this week's live mentoring. If you guys have any questions, just ask them in group. Let me know how you're doing in the course. And I look forward to talking to you guys next time. And now I'm going to stop the recording. Bye, guys.